Hey, what's going on, everybody? I hope everybody's doing exceptionally well. I hope everyone had a relaxed, refreshed weekend, had a chance to recollect, get ready for the next work or school week. For those who are new, welcome. We're building Community Trust. If you want the content and material, please stop by the website, www.rebuildingcommunitytrust.org. Again, this site is dedicated to police matters and justice, promotes advocacy, promotes empowerment to those to get involved in their laws, get in touch with their congressmen, their lobbyists to spread the word from all the issues that we're having today. So definitely talked last time about juvenile justice. I know this is supposed to be in the video. However, there's a lot of stuff I'm dealing with domestic violence, sexual abuse, sexual assault. I just finished a course trying to work on my credentialing and certification for advocacy for sexual assault. So it's kind of touched my heart. I've been actually dealing with it on a personal level from people coming to me talking. And also I've dealt with it when I was younger, as far as experiencing domestic violence and seeing it. So I'm going to kind of talk from my heart today. I'm always going to provide the statistics and provide a couple of cases that was online, some stuff that I've seen to kind of add to this. But I'm going to talk a lot personally today and from my heart. Relationship-wise, give some advice. Not an expert, but this is things I experienced or seen or put together from others. So I want to kind of talk from a ministerial aspect today. Take some notes. As always, you feel free. If you got any comments, questions, anything that you want to say, please drop it in the comments below. Please reach out. I'll definitely be entertaining any comments or questions. But definitely want to kind of talk a little bit today about that. So, got some stuff from the KWAC. This is the CAWC. Also got some statistics. It was some stuff on there for New York Law or New York Times. So basically there's a law that's been passed called the Domestic Violence Survivors Justice Act by the governor. It was just recently signed. And basically it was a case where a woman, she killed her boyfriend, living boyfriend. It was a lot of sexual abuse, domestic violence going on. They had kids involved. And she was supposed to be sentenced to 25 years to life. But with this new act, it is now her case was reduced to 5 to 15 years. It was signed in May of 2019. So that's the actual date it was signed. But basically dropping the charges due to the fact that she's had to prove that abuse was going on and she was in the fear of her life. So this is the quality of this law, retrospect to the evidence of the abuse and degree of the abuse and how you be able to establish the abuse proven in court. And as far as just being able to have those things proved to show that abuse was taking place and that it was needed to preserve life or the life of a child. Downside of the law, there's always cons and pros and cons, but it's not really any guidance to instruct either litigants or the court concerning the burden of proof, which could cause for the first case to fail. And there was other cases before this and it didn't work. So it's a case by case. Got to really look at the evidence, got to look at the facts before you say that this charge was not actually homicide or murder or manslaughter. It was actually in defense. It's kind of like standing your ground, which I talked about last video. Proving that you was in need to kill this person due to the fact that abuse was taking place. So you got to have your facts straight. You got to have the evidence to prove and make sure that this stuff stands so you won't be caught out here with life. There was another case where mom was found guilty of murdering boyfriend, but ceased like a sentence under a new law where it didn't work out. She can prove that it was physical abuse, sexual abuse taking place. It was more or less committed murder, more premeditated. And she ended up getting the actual maximum sentence that the judge gave due to the fact she couldn't prove that law stood for her in the case of sexual abuse. Not saying that it wasn't none, but you have to be able to prove that it was. A lot of stuff in place for domestic violence victims. And we just gotta we gotta continue to study our laws. We gotta continue to look at what the lobbyists doing. Lobbyists is putting out to Congress. Like I said, 2020 elections is coming up. A lot of issues on the table. If this is being presented, what can you do for me, as far as making stuff easier for domestic violence or any topic of that matter? Make sure that you're studying your people that you're electing. whether it's at the federal level, presidential level, whether it's at the city council level, state level, judicial court level. There's many different ways to look at it. You just got to be on it. You got to be on it when you vote in office, because that's going to make or break the laws. Those are the ones that's going to support the laws that we put in place. Some statistic and some numbers. This is in Illinois. This is not everywhere, but just it stood out. 30,121 DV services being offered through the CAWC. 347 women and children have received safe, confidential shelter. 3,500 DV hotline calls is made. And that's just interesting to see that, because this is how much is going on. And this is just Illinois. This is not all the other states in the United States. This is not even stuff that's going on worldwide. I'm not going to even touch how it is worldwide, because every country, even some countries where women, are getting abused by men is probably phenomenal. And a lot of this is a culture. So the way the culture falls. So there's not laws in place to protect women and kids, or those who are elderly, or whatever the case may be, to put stuff in place where domestic violence continues to happen through closed doors. So we're just speaking with America. We're not even talking worldwide. But this state alone, this is the amount of stuff. This is like 2018. So like I said, I'll post it on the webpage. But this is the numbers. So when we think about 30,121 DV services offered, that's how much is happening. Whether if it's with one white household or just repetitive, where it keeps happening and they have to keep getting the services. So we got to look at these numbers, and that just, imagine how it is in other states. It could be higher, it could be lower. Well, this is why it's so important to talk about. So CAWC, Connections for Abused Women and Their Children, that's what it stands for. We got to look at these things. Domestic violence is again very like epidemic. It's with sexual assault and domestic violence are hand in hand. And the sexual assault is on the rise. You see the news where so many people are coming out about it. The celebrities, you see, all those getting sexual assault claims are coming out, sexual harassment claims are coming out. The women are starting to speak up. They're getting empowered, and they feel like that they can, speak up about this stuff, whatever motive is in their heart. So this is why we need to be aware of the laws. We need to be aware of the things we need to do and start, being careful out here. So I'm gonna put some bullet points out, some of the factors of domestic, what the cause of domestic violence, why does it happen? I'm going to kind of expand, elaborate on those a little bit. I just want to get to the roots. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I'm going to talk from a heart level today. You know what I'm saying? With this, I'm not going to go to criminal justice on it. I'm going to post some stats and post some things on the page. And also, this is Domestic Violence Month. This is Awareness Month. So we need to be aware. This is awareness. This is why I do what I do, to spread the word. We can be aware of not only of the domestic violence and domestic assaults as far as the stats, but what resources are available to help those that are going through it. Getting awareness is all about awareness, just like sexual assault, suicide, AIDS. I mean, there's many examples of awareness. This is that's why they do this stuff. So people can get knowledge so they can start getting involved. If you know someone's going through an issue with someone, where they're getting assaulted or violent abused, this is the stuff to pass information on, get them resources so they can get out those situations. So some of the stuff I wrote down, some of the causes: control, physical, sexual, financial, psychological. Some of the factors that people with men or women, they use the low self-esteem, extreme jealousy, difficulties of anger and regulation, and other emotions. The inequality in socioeconomic status and gender roles. That's another one. Women feeling less to a man. Everything is gender neutral. We got to look at ACEs triggers, because this is where the kids come in. This is personal to me. Experiencing domestic violence with parents and people around me. That stuff affects the child. It affects their development. It causes their minds to be developed different. They see behaviors, and those behaviors come lifelong. Drugs and alcohol. That's inhibitors. Those things that are common. This is part of why domestic violence happens. That's also experienced. Also an ACEs trigger is dealing with that. Incarceration is another one. So those are some of the things I want to expound upon on. So number one, dealing with low self-esteem, just using physical, sexual, financial, psychological means to cause domestic violence. There are numerous examples. One of the things I could say with that is, you look at when you get in a relationship with somebody, these are the things that we need to value beforehand. A lot of times we get in relationships for many various reasons. Sometimes it's just whether it's, you don't want to be alone, or someone you think or you actually, get engaged at some point in time. You get in these relationships, you got to look at all that stuff. You got to look at the physical. You got to look at the financial. A lot of domestic violence is because of past. If you haven't dealt with your childhood, you had issues growing up. You haven't dealt with those issues, those behaviors, and those patterns develop, and then it carries over into relationships, carries over into women, into men. Difficulty of anger and not dealing with your anger very well. That stuff can push over as well. It can be something spark you real quick. You had a bad day at work, or something's being said. Communication is not solidified in a relationship, and then things get out of hand. And next thing you know, that communication turns violent, and then that's when it goes into domestic violence. As far as a criminal justice perspective, when you're dealing with domestic violence, a lot of times what I've seen working and doing what I was doing, if one party commits a domestic violence act, both parties go to jail. There's plenty of examples where you come to respond to a call and you see the woman beat up and the kids, or you see the man, even some men, no matter if it's heterosexual or homosexual. This is not gender neutral. This is not race neutral. Everyone deals with it. It's not a black thing, white thing, Hispanic. It's everybody. So no matter what race or what position you're in, what socioeconomic status, rich, poor, middle class, everyone deals with domestic violence. Is there some of these triggers, some of these things we're dealing with anger, jealousy, all these different emotions. You don't manage the emotions very well. Somebody could say something, communication goes bad, and then somebody's getting hit. Social and economic status. That could be a reason why domestic violence. Someone's working job. You got a man that's trying to work, and he comes home and stuff's not done, or whatever examples that are there. As far as he's not making enough money, he's frustrated. The woman comes at the man wrong, or vice versa. Woman's working, the man's not working, or it doesn't matter. That could spark domestic violence because wrong thing is said, emotions run high, and then the next thing you know that you're into a physical altercation. Everything's based off emotions. So if you're not managing those emotions, again, you're gonna have problems. One of the biggest things, I'm gonna kind of jump off a little bit on a tangent. Okay. One of the things I want to point out is the perception of double standards in a relationship. Again, I'm not a relationship expert, and you can always leave the comments in the comments below. The society has said about men hitting women beaters, right? So men, I never condone hitting a woman. You know what I'm saying? But again, this is where the checking emotions come in, because society has dubbed men not to hit a woman. But like, if you look at the statistics and you look at some of the casework, say there's some women abusing men. It might not be to the extent of a man doing it, but I don't believe hitting a woman. But also, I don't believe, this is my personal opinion, I'm going to say it. People get mad about it. Say what they, like I said, leave comments in the below. You can say what you got to say. I'll address it. But I'm going to speak my piece, because at the end of the day, I don't believe in a woman hitting a man as well. Yeah, society say no man don't hit a woman, but you got to understand the roles of a man, right? A man desires respect, just like a woman desires love and affection. A woman is that's hadn't had their emotions checked, and they got a nasty mouth, just or they feel like they can put their hands on a man. That what that does to a man, it's called disrespect. You putting a hand on a man, you put your hands in a man's face. Don't matter if he's big, 6'5", 250, or 5'8", 210. It don't matter. You know what I'm saying? You put your hands in a man's face, and you hit the man, and you scratch him up. You know what I'm saying? And you continue to do it, because it's two extremes. One extreme is there's a man that probably won't get confrontational. There's some men out there won't confront women. They won't hit them. You know what I'm saying? They'll take the abuse or whatever the case may be. But you know what I'm saying? And the man's role is leadership. A man's role is to be the provider, the head of the home. That's just the way the roles are designed. Most women would think if a man don't stand up and have a backbone and you let a woman hit on him and talk to him any kind of way, and they don't say nothing to the woman or put any type of stand or ground or stand for something, they're going to think they're a coward. That's just my opinion. They're going to think they're a coward. They're going to think they can't do what they need to do. And when the women take advantage of that, they know that they're going to continue to do that. So that's one extreme. The other extreme is where a man gets extremely violent. There's some men that won't be able to take you, put no hands on a woman. And it's this case scenario. There's some men that beat women anyway because they even say something to them wrong. It don't have to be that serious, and men will beat them anyway. But in this case, where a man, can't take that, right? And you put your hands in their face and push on them, slap on them, beat on them, right? And then they lose their temper. They probably had a bad day at work. They probably dealt with some things. And then they come home to a woman beating on them and scratching on them and yelling at them and screaming at them, calling them names. He snaps and then he punches you out. That's the second extreme. So to me, you have to be able to have the emotional communication, that lifeline connected to where you know how to deal with your issues, have coping mechanisms to deal with your issues. You got to know how to communicate. You know what I'm saying? Just like you don't want a man hitting a woman, it shouldn't be a woman putting their hands on a man. Because what I feel like is, and again, people feel how they're going to feel. If you're a woman and you think you're big enough to hit a man and beat on him and fight him, and you're big enough to take the punishment behind it. That's just what I believe. You can't go around here provoking men and hitting on them and then expect them to just cower down and not do nothing to you. And then the relationship is not fruitful. Then and then you have kids involved on top of that. They're going to see that. And again, the ACEs triggers. And then they're going to see that. And then they're going to think, okay, that's the way it's going to be. That's how it should be. This is from personal experience, seeing it myself as a kid. It's not good for both parties to do any domestic violence. You know what I'm saying? Some of the effects, counseling. If communication is not good in that relationship, counseling. Talk to the person. Go see someone. Iron out your issues. If there's a communication barrier, you should be able to go to a counseling individual and as a couple, especially if you're married. Therapy. You know what I'm saying? Communication skills and emotions have to be checked. So that's my little take two on that. That's part of what I was saying as far as the part of what I was saying as far as the difficulty is anger. And it also ties in with socioeconomic statuses as well. So we gotta look at these things. Drugs and alcohol. Part of big domestic violence is in the media. If you're drunk coming home and you get into it with your spouse or girlfriend or whatever the partner that you're with, because you're inhibited by alcohol, you say things you shouldn't say, you have actions and things you shouldn't do. Guess what happens? There's domestic violence. Drugs, same thing. Drugs and alcohol is not a good combination to come home and have a bad day, and then you have a communication issue, and then you start domestic violence. Those are also prevalent. What I've seen as well, where you on a drug or you on a alcohol, and you out there and you get into it with your spouse, and then or a partner, and that's how it goes down. So drugs is a big one. Knowing the balances, knowing the roles. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times women has been on the short end of the stick. This is what this Me Too movement started. This is why it's so big with domestic and sexual assault, because of women. Women feel like the less gender role over the years. And then as women get empowered, they're working corporate jobs, they're CEOs, they're managing, they're independent. You know what I'm saying? They don't need a man really for anything. You know what I'm saying? And that switches the role for a man, because now, you know what I'm saying, that man is being emasculated a lot of times. They feel some type of way. And then when a woman we'll say example, a woman doesn't have the standard of a woman the man's not meeting, she chastises and emasculates him. He gets mad and gets upset, and then it could be a domestic violence issue. He could not, take being emasculated, and he goes off and does something. It's a lot of examples. Again, I'm just throwing little scenarios here and there. I'm not, saying specific per se, but it's a lot of examples I could give where a domestic violence case pulls up or happens. You know, being able to have that equality mindset, treating everybody with respect on both fronts. If you're in a relationship with someone, communication, dealing with emotions, dealing with past hurts, all these different things that we need to address before getting into any type of relationship, so we have a better understanding on how we deal with things. Because a lot of times, if you don't address your communication issues, something may come out wrong, they didn't mean to come out, feelings are involved, anger, and then, fighting. Or worst case scenario, shooting or killing. Another one I forgot to mention, mental health. Mental health is another one I talked about in my last video. Mental illnesses. There's people in relationships where they no matter what is done or said, they go off the deep end. Something can not go their way, go off the deep end. And the mental illness is not, you're not getting help for it. You're not taking the medicine. You're not seeking the therapy. There's been cases where stuff got out of control, and then a guy or girl end up taking a gun and killing that individual. You know what I'm saying? So mental illness is another barrier to having domestic violence issues. There's a lot of cases on it. Domestic violence is caught at earlier stages. That's the time allowed for the person to leave and find shelter or DV shelter, relatives' home, friends, and have protective restraining orders. So again, this is for the women and men. They're mostly women. But however, if you're in a situation you don't need to be in, Stockholm syndrome, I don't want to leave because I love him, he's been good, I can't find no one else mentality, where you want to leave and you stay in a dangerous situation, especially if kids are involved, need to seek help. A lot of situations where a woman stays with a man because they're financially unstable, they don't want to be alone, they don't want to start over, they invested time, and they go and they stay in this abusive relationship where they'll stay into death. You know what I'm saying? Because they go off a situation where the man abuses them and then turns around, he's sorry, makes up for it, right? They make up and they say they'll do better. The woman believes him, and it happens, and it keeps happening and it keeps happening until when she says she's leaving, it's too late, because now that foothold's there. All he finds out, then you got to have a restraining order, because he's gonna come and try to do something to you. Vice versa with the women, the same thing. Women, abuse men, the man stay. Woman finds out he's leaving or cheating on her. Next thing you know, there's a possible domestic violence. Gotta, don't stay in a situation you obviously, you don't need to be in. No matter how good a person that you think he is to you, if he's abusing you, it's a dangerous situation. You got kids, definitely need to split your situation up. You don't need to be in a situation where a kids are seeing you argue and fight. Don't need to be in a situation where they're getting abused or seeing their parents abused. Again, it's from personal experience, seeing it. This stuff stays with you. So you definitely need to be mindful of what you're doing when it comes to that. I will say, from a criminal justice aspect, police involvement will have to be proactive because of the minimal roles of police powers. Police can't really do much about that. A lot of stuff. A lot of times the police only comes in when it's happening or when it's already happened. You know what I'm saying? So, as far as police involvement, earlier, if you know it's sexual or domestic abuse or violence, you need to be proactive. Report it early. You know what I'm saying? If you see signs of something like that happening, find your way out as early as can. Don't wait till it's too late. You know what I'm saying? There's only the really thing you can do with domestic violence. Restraining orders, be truthful. They're good to a certain extent. They just be realistic. You know what I'm saying? There's been times when you have restraining order on someone, and they still find a way to you. There's nothing 100% proof. Be proactive. You know what I'm saying? Be safe. Get a relative or friend involved, someone that co-worker, someone, let them know where your whereabouts are. You know what I'm saying? Communicate what you're doing, where you're going. So if something ever happens, a lot of times with these crimes, the person gets missing, they kidnapped, and then they're gone. Always communicate where you at, where you're going, restraining orders. Fine, if you got to stay to a relative's house, because you can't stay at that person's house 24/7. At some point in time, you're gonna leave, go to work, and if this person's seriously on that domestic violence tip and they're stalking and abusive, you got to put stuff in place. You got to be safe. Self-defense courses. Go to the range. Learn how to pick up a weapon. Whatever you have to do to protect yourself, mainly for the women, you need to do so. You know what I'm saying? Find your way out of the situation early. Don't stay in something too long, because the longer you stay in something, the attachment to that person gets stronger. And then you make up and break up. Eventually, when you finally ready to stop talking to this individual, they already got an emotional soul tie. And then they have a soul tie. When you try to actually leave them for real, they lose their mind. I've seen it. So take measures to make sure that you're safe. Let me see about anything else I can touch on. But those are the 4 bullet points that I put out about this topic. Again, recap: physical, sexual, financial, psychological, using inhibitors, using things to keep the person locked in. Someone with low self-esteem, jealous, difficulties with anger, regulation of other emotions. And if you got low self-esteem, it's something you have to deal with. If someone put that low self-esteem, make sure that you're so low that you have to stay. That's not the move. You know what I'm saying? You got to love yourself. Love yourself enough to not put yourself in a position for abuse. There's no one too that good to where you have to take someone's mess because of low self-esteem. Jealousy. If someone's jealous, these are red flags. This is basic one-on-one relationships. Someone who's extremely jealous and they are possessive, that's not the move either. Because what's going to happen is, if you can be walking on eggshells pretty much the whole relationship. You might not even be doing nothing wrong. You could be doing something positive. That person's jealousy and possessive. They're going to assume something that's not true, and then they're going to take an action or make an impulse decision or impulse action because of what they've seen or heard. Need to make sure the emotions in check. Anger. We already spoke on anger. If someone gets angry at the drop of a hat, whether male or female, that's not the move. Female gets mad because she assumes you talking to someone, or you do something they don't like, and they spaz off on you, putting their hands on you, and you put your hand in the face and on your eye and all that stuff. That's not the move. And then you're a man easily provoked, something said or done, and then you easily provoked, and then you snap off and hit the woman. That's not the move. There's so many different scenarios. Both parties need to make sure that their emotions are checked. I call it social economic status. That could be a role, gender roles, woman being more of the breadwinner than the man. That could also trigger domestic violence. Vice versa, when the man being the breadwinner and the woman's not knowing their roles, not knowing what their positions are, what their lanes are in the relationship, that could contribute to domestic violence. Childhood, critical years of childhood growth with being in that type of environment, ACEs triggers. They're not dealt with through counseling or addressing those issues as they become adults. They're going to think the behavior is okay, and they may put themselves in domestic violence situations, whether allowing it or being the aggressor in it. Both work versions. So we both have to deal with those ACEs triggers, get that therapy, get that counseling. Taking proactiveness and taking action, being awareness, having stuff in place. If you know what's going to happen, if you can't end the relationship or you already have kids, vested time, you need to start making moves to separate yourself before it gets too late. A lot of the domestic violence cases happen when the death or being missing happens at the very end, when the person decides to leave after should have been left 6 months ago, year ago, whatever the case may be. That's about it. We gotta look at these factors. Need to take the time, be aware of what we're doing, who we're engaging with. It's easier said than done, because a lot of times it's always an investment of time and money and love and all that stuff. But it's nothing, like I said, nothing too worth getting abused. So many domestic violence cases. I'm going to post them on the page. You're going to see the numbers and you're going to be like, man, how is this numbers are so high? It's not really nothing really law enforcement can really do about it either. You proactive, you come to them. Some places may not even deal with that. Depending on the evidence, depending on the time, the resources, depending on what happened, it may nothing. All they're gonna really tell you is split up. Most of them, when dealing with domestic violence, at least in the state of Georgia, you split up. They take one person, The person, they arrest them, or both parties go to jail, or they have them let the person leave. There's nothing no law enforcement can really do about that. It takes the person that's in a relationship to seek the help. There's resources. I'm going to post them on the page. If there's shelters, there's counselors, there's resources that you can go to advocate and get you out the door if you are dealing with that type of situation. But again, it just takes the person to realize what they're getting into. And once they're in it, they need to go ahead and find a way out of it. Being proactive, using the resources. So that's all I got with domestic violence. Again, any comments, put it in the link below. Glad to address them. Just a quick recap on the Amber Geiger case. That's the case where she entered to the guy's home, man was eating ice cream, and she shot and killed him. There's a lot of outrage, a lot of anger about it. I was a little angry. Also with people talking about how the brother forgave her and the judge and stuff like that. That's on a spiritual level. That's just Jesus' example of forgiveness and love. And that's something I believe in, despite of people comments, they wouldn't do it because of, of what happened prior, all the hate built up with police, especially white police shooting black, men or whatever the case may be. I understand it, but I'm also a Christian. So when I think of those things and Jesus gave us the example to forgive, despite of what happened to us, that God's grace is more than sufficient. You know what I'm saying? So I have a heart for that. And I respect his brother doing that and forgiving her because it frees yourself. You know what I'm saying? In spite of what people say, that I believe in that. You know what I'm saying? And again, I always say, a lot of people say they can't do something until they're in it. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to old boy for doing that and forgiving her, Amber, for what she's done. From a Christian's perspective, that's the right thing to do. We're not looking at race. I try not to be convoluted with just the anger, but, end of the day, that's the right thing to do. As far as the case itself, it was unjust. 10 years is not enough for that. And then she tried to use the castle doctrine. I talked about that last video. So if you want to know more about that, you can go back to the last video. But the castle doctrine, where she felt like he was in her home, but again, a lot of miscued cases, and it's just plain out wrong. Plain out wrong. He was in his apartment, despite of fatigue and coming home a long day. There's no excuse to go trying to go and off someone in their home, or because he came out the door. So that case was clear cut. It was 10 years. And not enough time at all. Not enough time. It's just feel like, this is why, again, we got to get aware. This is the truth. You got to be aware. You got to be aware of your laws. You got to be aware of what's going on around you. You got to be aware of what you're doing. And now, even then, that's not enough. But I think the positive thing I can say is just continue to learn your laws. Continue to educate your laws. Educate those in your communities about it. Get enough power. Get enough people that's educated to take a stand. Because, there's only, clear cut, there's only so much you can do. But not going to give up on advocating because of we have injustices. This is why I do it, because people need to be aware of what's going on. Educating, passing it on to the youth, passing it on to those around them so we can all be knowledgeable. So if something ever does happen like this, y'all can take a stand, go to those Congress, go to those people, make a fuss, whatever we got to do so the laws are changed. You know what I'm saying? So, but she did get 10 years. Not enough time, but, that's how it is with the justice system until we continue to make changes with it. So that's pretty much what I have. Stay tuned to more videos. I'm definitely definitely going to do a sexual assault video. Definitely going to do juvenile justice. I'm going to get back to it, but this is one of the topics that I wanted to speak on because of the constant, having people come to me about it. Took a course, and that kind of enlightened some notes for me. So. Also working on, like I said, redoing the page, Facebook. So stand by for the new redirection of the Facebook page, Instagram page. It's going to be dedicated just for the site. So it's not going to be on my page. It's going to be a separate page. So stand by for that. Also, in the near future, I'm going to post T-shirts. I'm going to start selling Rebuilding Community Trust T-shirts. Going to start selling different paraphernalia to support the page, support the movement. Please support me. It's going to be some nice T-shirts. I'll have different designs, different colors. I'll have hoodies. I'll have any type of T-shirt that you want. I'm going to post them. I'm going to start wearing them. Once they come in, shipping and they come in, I'm going to go ahead and start marketing these shirts. Please support. Pass the stuff on. Christmas is coming up next couple months. Be a perfect gift. I even put a personal letter, thank you letter in there with it. So y'all can send it or give it to your loved ones. Give it to someone for a gift. So stand by for that. Podcast, I'm still working on some kinks on that. But it's definitely going to happen soon in the near future. So we got a lot of big things coming up. I'm going to post some new material in there as well, as far as the conference and the Code conference. Any takeaways that they gave during that conference, I'm going to try to post them on the page. So just go to www.rebuildingcommunitytrust.org. Check out all the material that I have. Bright future coming up. A lot of stuff still coming out. Just appreciate the love. Those who support, please pass the word. And I'll see y'all next time. Enjoy.